and took their wages and are dead. Their shoulders held the sky suspended. They stood in the
Africa, the very source of our whole Homo what thinks. From this enormous, ecologically and culturally diverse continent developed and spread what we now broadly call the human race. Unfortunately, those who spread eventually, spread back, snapped back. I probably should have come up with a rubber metaphor to set me up a good verb, but then I just start talking about the Belgian Congo explicitly, plus at great length again. So, anyway, we as humans have come back to roost, like Zeus only putting down enough infrastructure to support the efficient extraction of silicon from Kronos, then leaving with everyone who's been trained to maintain the power plant. Europe and/or America would like to be daddy now. Racist daddy. Racist breed daddy. The Dogs of War is a character study, a coup procedural, a survey of the psychic weight of being a professional kill person, and a riff on the many, many 20th century rich Western country-led /finance coup d'etats that have kept the wheels of economic colonialism spinning throughout the so-called global south, well past the point that everyone who'd already had a turn at the global superpower table started saying that their means of getting there, namely the military subjugation of client nations, if you call every person who shipped shit you robbed a client, has been extremely rude. Had been extremely rude. Sorry. Also, it finally lands on Christopher Walken just running around hip-firing an Uzi, looking like a twisted ghost. The 80s action film birthed at last from attenuated scenes of logistics. You don't even know why some of them are happening. One of your fave murder games took a method of torture from it. Its fake weapon system, built on what was left of a real weapon system, but was no longer a weapon system. Went on to inspire a real weapon system. It's documented. The world is hell. But today on Hinge Problems, you're late to the Dogs of War.
Totally scarring war movies.
Welcome to Hinge Problems. Punch up your cast and make a few more jokes. I'm Rudy.
I'm Chris.
I'm Tigress.
I'm Shrug.
That's a lovely intro, Shrug. So walking, right? Are we talking walking here? Oh, that's a terrible thing.
We're
Shoot
walking,
me in
we're
the
walking
face.
Walking, talking.
We're walking and talking with Walken.
Walking and talking.
Look,
God
if
damn,
you're gonna
he
watch a
can
movie
stare.
with Christopher Walken, it's gonna open up way too much lazy.
I mean,
humor
yeah,
right out the gate.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. You could go with this, or you could go with that. Depends on your weapon
This
of
is all a
choice.
crime. This is all a crime against comedy.
It is. It is. Like the problem of Christopher Walken is that his existence brings out an attempt in everyone to be funny, but everything that's funny about Christopher Walken has been done, and so.
Oh, he's so pretty though. He's so pretty in this.
It's
Oh,
There
he's
we go.
gorgeous.
There we go.
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah. What's it? This is like
a beautifully maintained skull.
Yeah. No, like I was like 20 minutes into this movie when I looked over to my wife and I'm like, this is really odd that I'm finding Christopher Walken attractive, but here we are. Like,
Mhm. He's
just
got
wow.
that dancer's body, like, and he's got this grace that's undeniable. Any
Yeah.
like full body shot of Walken, you're just like, God damn, this man could wear clothes.
Yeah.
He wears this. He's in this tiny, crappy New York apartment, but he's always impeccably dressed. I spent about 30 minutes trying to track down that no doubt like $700 jacket he was wearing in the New York scenes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Sorry. I failed that casting. I couldn't figure out where to find that $700 jacket.
And
those great
as-
pleated pants.
as somebody who's grown up basically my entire life being aware of Christopher Walken after Christopher Walken basically became a human joke thanks to like 2 SNL sketches. Um yeah, it's really weird seeing Christopher Walken with, a Walken-y affect, but not like just playing the Walken hits. He's got a gravitas and a seriousness to him in this movie that I don't think I've seen much in Walken media I've seen in my life.
But he's kind of the only character in the film, honestly. He's like the only human in the film.
I mean, there's some other people a little bit.
you
Name
gotta-
3.
Oh no, I can't go to 3. 3 is not. 3 is too many.
Walken's wife, Walken's
You're
wife's
right.
dad, Tom Berenger, who doesn't want to
That-
see his wife get fat. Great guy. All right,
Dictator's
Lord.
wife gets a handful of scenes.
Yeah.
That
Drunk
British
reporter.
journalist guy. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That
I
guy.
feel like
Drunk Reporter.
I've shot myself in the foot
Yeah.
again already.
Yeah. I mean, they mostly just serve as like sounding boards for Walken. It's very much a
Yeah.
an all Walken power hour.
And yet in the strength of the film, he never reveals himself to the audience.
It's a staring movie.
Yeah.
This is probably why I didn't remember, other than like its structure as a lengthy procedural followed by 20 minutes of Uzi / semi-fictionalized grenade launcher. But I really remembered the Uzis and all the hip firing. I didn't remember much about the movie, but I thought there's something about that movie. And I think that something was all of the Walken just staring. He's
Yeah.
one of the like someone who loves to see just people staring and somehow conveying something with mostly blank and or varying degrees of intensity.
It definitely
Stares. I love it.
It
So
definitely
good.
conveys an interiority to Walken. Because like the whole thing is just figuring is like what's Walken thinking?
Which we're never
And
let in
when-
on, but we have plenty of scenes of seeing him in strength and in vulnerability.
And what he says explicitly and what he doesn't carries a lot of weight. The rare times that it happens.
Yes, so we should do a little bit of clarification here because one of our cast, I'm not saying who, Bougie, did not watch the right cut of the film. So 3 of us have a somewhat of a different interpretation, and I watched it on Japanese DVD, which turned out to be the longer cut. And I believe Shrug and Tigers both watched it on HBO Max.
No.
No,
Oh, sorry.
HBO Max is where I watched it.
Okay.
Did you watch it on
I
HBO
went-
Max? Shrug and Tigress watched it on a mysterious magical wavelength that God knows where it came from.
I went, hey, this thing on HBO Max seems kind of short. Oh my god, I can't possibly watch the short version of this movie. That's mostly Christopher Walken staring and getting beaten up and, just ordering Uzis.
So I feel like we have like this different setup for the character because our version of the film opened up with a baby baptism for a fallen comrade of Walken, and Walken, James Shannon, or was that his fake? That was his fake name.
No, it's Jimmy Shannon. Yeah, James Shannon.
Jimmy Shannon. Jimmy Shannon trying to seek absolution or a normal life, and being denied it, and it sets us this theme of him trying to find where he can exist outside of war.
And everywhere that he goes, it's a running thing throughout the movie of everywhere that he goes that could possibly not be, killing folks or materially and logistically supporting the killing of folks. I think both versions open with a never totally explicated retreat from a coup gone bad or a civil war gone bad somewhere in Central or South America, where he and his mercenary buddies threaten their way onto a plane
Yeah, that scene
Uh,
turns from fun to very scary very quickly. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a fun escape. It's a fun. Oh no,
No,
oh,
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
let
no,
it
no.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You see him on the Jeep and it's like, oh, okay, they're getting away, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. This just got really threatening.
they're, they're told the plane is full. Watkins like, how many people do we need to kill to make room? You get the impression these are like mostly like VIPs and supporters of the not no longer in power or failed to make it into power government, and so they threaten their way onto the deal. One of their guys is, if not dead, then on death's door, and they hustle him or drag him, carry him onto the plane, and somebody comes down the aisle and says he's dead, he needs to go. And Tom Berenger, sitting next to him, takes a grenade off out of his shit and pulls the pin and puts it in his friend's hand and closes it around him and says he's alive. So, and then you get Watkins, I think his first iteration of everybody goes home.
Ah,
And then you see the plane take off with some very, very lovely shot. Looks a bit stepped on at this point. A lot of grain. Maybe there was some fucking optical effects in there. Film stuff. So exciting. Um, and then it cuts, in the longer version, it cuts straight from that, or rather, it fades into it is implied the guy that died with a grenade in his hand on a plane to the christening, the baptism of his infant son.
Yeah, and the version I watched, like that guy just is gone. Like once the airplane scene happens and the grenade with Tom Berenger, you just never hear from that guy again, and it's just never talked about ever again.
so
So it makes that
what's the next scene?
the next scene's just like walking in 1980s New York, and it's then he goes to the hotel and goes up. Or he goes to his apartment. Sorry, not the hotel, but the guy
Oh,
with the
okay.
guy with the comic
It
book. Yeah,
what used to be a fade with the score slowly fading out as well as the image fading into the Catholic Church. It now like does a hard cut, and there's like a second of total silence and black screen, and then oh, he's walking into a lobby.
yeah, it's very abrupt. I mean, like it almost makes you wonder if that first part is a different movie, and like obviously it isn't, but like the tone shift there is drastic and uncomfortable. And when you all mentioned there was a longer cut, that one was probably the most visible place in the movie where it was like there was something that happened between these two scenes that is not
Yes, but
here.
it doesn't. It does give the same um, emotional whiplash. I understand. I sort of understand why I cop it, because if you're just going to start cutting out scenes that don't pay off later, because that actually sets up a strange expectation. Because when Jamie is drunk later, making a phone call, and then you see a pan of wedding photos, I thought he was trying to call back to his would-be god family, and
Hmm.
because you only saw that woman very briefly, who is a brunette, and turns out his wife is also a brunette. So that took me about 5 minutes to figure out. Which good job. Which I think is one of the strengths of the film, is it never explains itself.
Yeah, yeah, no, and honestly, in the shorter cut that I watched, even though I could tell there was something missing there, it still actually kind of worked for me because it was just there's no explanation. He's just like, yeah, he lives in New York. Like after doing all this shit, he went back to his apartment in New York, and it's like that, like the whiplash that you mentioned before felt pretty intentional because like, hey, you just almost murdered your way onto a plane in Central America, and then you're back at a all right apartment in New York City.
Where you have a gun in your refrigerator next to the
You
Budweiser.
have a gun in every possible place. That was
Mhm.
amazing. And that was another thing that I liked is that over the course of a couple different scenes that take place in that apartment, you notice he has guns everywhere. and like always within reach, ready to go. And he doesn't say anything about it. The movie doesn't say anything about it. You're just like, oh, okay, this guy is ready for something to happen no matter where he is. I mean, it is also 80s New York, so they were peak crime wave times and all that stuff, so they could have been doing some sort of commentary on that, but it felt more like a commentary on Walken's character.
I think they're definitely creating a contrast between the peace and safety of like America and the African nation that the movie continually returns to. Like there is no like he's nervous clearly about his front door, but like when he's walking around the city, they do not film any of those scenes with like a sense of strong tension. And this is a movie that really likes having small moments of tension. So
Mhm.
I
Or
think
letting the audience know that there's tension where the characters would not, like, as soon as they're starting to do the deal and they have that guy tracking them, and the movie continually
Yeah.
reminds you, here's this guy that they don't know about.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
well, and I think that tension is an interesting contrast because I think, and one of the things I really enjoyed in the movie was just all the film of late 70s New York City, sort of pre-cleanup.
Oh,
of New York City.
I wanted to, outside of everything smelling like tobacco and alcoholism, I wanted to
Yeah.
just drink it in.
Yeah, but that like you mentioned, Tigress, Christopher Walken's character, Jimmy, does not feel any tension walking around there. To him, this is like a perfectly peaceful place, and he's just walking around. And the movie doesn't like try to play up New York as this big scary thing.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like Death Wish or anything, but
Yeah,
it does.
he knows
He knows it. He doesn't feel scared there.
The
Well,
implication
but-
with like the guns and where he lives to me, like he's afraid someone would specifically be trying to kill him in his home, but
Yeah.
it's not because he's in New York. Because he's an international mercenary is why he would be worried someone would want to kill him. But yeah, when he's just on the street, he's not worried about stuff.
I think when he's on the move, he's more comfortable. In a weird way, because I'm probably bringing too much of my own. Hi, it's me. I have complex PTSD and whatever. Yeah, he obviously, okay, New York is his home and he knows it, and so if something weird was afoot, he would notice it more quickly. He's also probably like modulated to as someone who is still actively working as a military contractor. He's probably like modulated to a much higher tempo of danger than a New York in the late 70s would present. And that allows him to relax. But like in his apartment, like you literally can't see anything that's approaching until you look through your friggin' peephole, right? So you won't have very much warning. Someone could kick down his door at any minute, so he's going to have a gun in his desk. He's going to have a gun in his fridge. He's going to have a gun in the little vanity table that's in the main hallway. He's going to be extra alert there because he's just kicking around. And also, anyone could get very close.
Speaking of his apartment, in the longer cut of the movie, is there any explanation about why he always has the TV on, like before he gets home?
Nope.
Okay, that's cool. It was an interesting detail to notice watching the movie though, because every time he walks into his apartment, the TV is already on. He doesn't walk over and turn it on. He might walk over and change the channel, but it's already on. It's like he leaves it on.
I would just assume to make sure that people don't know like whether he's home or not.
Yeah, no, it played into his sort of personal space paranoia, I guess I would say. I don't know if that's probably not the right word, but that alertness that Shrug's talking about of having when he is at home, he preserves that alertness even when he's not in the apartment. It was a nice detail. There's a lot of nice detail just in that apartment.
Yeah, and he's almost never watching it when he's there.
Like his tiny, tiny bedroom closet.
Mhm.
The bedroom is the size. Not that I would have any experience with it, Japan. That his bedroom is the size of his mattress and a tiny little vanity. There's like no other room in that closet.
Oh yeah, you find a small secret space. A certain very specific level of white noise is good so that the silence can't get to you. There's a lot of like subtle indicators like what his life has done to him, right?
So
But
can you
there's
can you speak a
nothing
little bit more to that
glaring.
as terms of like because obviously PTSD is much more well known now, but we're talking
Mhm.
the references of PTSD in 1979, 1980.
It is heavily implied in the short version. I mean, I'm sure that Chris has said that he figured it out.
Yeah, you pick it
There's a
up.
lot of
It's not explicitly said, but you definitely like you run some mental math as you're watching the movie, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah,
it's made very explicit in the longer version. After the christening scene, he has a conversation with the the wife of his old buddy about how he did his said buddy, now deceased buddy, R.I.P. buddy, uh, went AWOL uh, in Vietnam. She says Vietnam. Uh, he made some excuse for him and brought him back, and that's why she says, "Yeah, he was yours from then on." And so the unspoken but very obvious implication is, and she tells him, "I wish you had just arrested him." Um, Obvious implication was, I would have preferred that you did that, and that he had like been in the brig for a decade or whatever, instead of him following you, because he would always follow you everywhere. Um, and eventually that killed him. It sets up a lot of things. It sets up his own sort of paternalistic need to protect people even stronger. It sets up a lot of little bits in the deal.
yeah,
Um,
and that the paternalistic need to protect people, I think, in the absence of that scene, is not really well established early in the
mhm.
movie. Like you get much more like because it cuts to him alone in the apartment. Basically, you get much more of a sense of him as a kind of a lone wolf person, not looking out to protect other people. So it that is definitely a character difference that
Yeah,
is caused by the loss of that scene.
because also, yeah, in the christening scene, he talks about how he wants to be active in the kid's life, right?
Mhm.
Like he says he wants, like he's not going to be there every day, but he says he'd like to know about the school and he'd like to visit and stuff. Before being very firmly told no by his teammate's wife.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
you don't necessarily get that. Like it's strange because the everybody goes home kind of ethos comes off as almost like a point of pride for him. Like not that he like super cares about people, but just that he doesn't want anyone left. It's a strange. I think it's a strange character detail that's lost from the lack of that scene.
Leave no man behind, hoorah! To Rudy's original question, there's this like intense sense of fatalism to the movie, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
where I only have like this is the thing that I have. I've totally immersed my life in it. I'm gonna go bother my ex-wife. um, I just got all this money from this very bad experience, and the way that he ultimately like having withdraws into after that experience, and is then essentially leaned on to know you're going to do this, but only actually gives in after that, like that other avenue, like, hey, just I'm gonna throw a Hail Mary at my ex-wife, and she's like, no, fuck you, this isn't gonna happen.
I love that. I just want to say that I love that she says that she doesn't want to move to Montana or Colorado as he proposes because she doesn't want him playing cowboy there. And I'm just imagining this movie's fantasy Colorado and Montana, where it is apparently still somehow the Wild West, despite the fact that it's 1979.
Yeah, like you're gonna figure out some way to go kill people. And like
The lawless
having
wasteland of 80s Colorado.
yeah, and having that having this like obviously has a fantastic idea of this person, and having them be like, nah man, fuck you. This is you're a kill man. You do kill man things, and how I think that's like that seems to be what pushes him back into, oh yeah, I'm a kill man. I do kill man things. Yeah, whatever. We're gonna do this thing, and how he goes back into like total professional mode. And only like lets like there's the torture scene that was lifted for Call of Duty with the fucking glass in mouth thing. Like there are these bits of cruelty that come out, but they're still very like controlled and tight. And even the cinematography and the blocking is like lots of hallways, lots of vertical lines, lots of okay, he's trapped and on an inevitable course. That's and then at the end when they have a scene of him carefully explaining that, we're I don't know if you've ever worked with mercenaries to all the like Zagaro expatriates that were forced out and are coming back. You do the lion's share of the work. We're just here to support. We do tech, we do strategy, tactics, logistics, etc. We don't do most. You have to be the pointy end of the spear here, and how that, which is the way that like suggests to me that he's probably specifically Army Special Forces in because that's how they operate ostensibly as force multipliers. But the way that like professionalism, that rigidity, that everything just melts into I have a fucking grenade launcher and I'm going to kill I mean, he just like totally loses himself in an orgy of okay, I guess I'm the pointy tip of the sphere. I'm gonna blow everything up.
So
Yeah,
I wanted to ask about the hired help or the army they use because James says, I have my own guys. Don't worry about it. I'm going to have my own guys on the ground. I don't trust your guys. So are those the guys that he had found? And not the displaced Zingara? Zingara?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was the case. I also think that's interesting because his own like regular mercenary buddies don't even know who those people are. And it even more illustrates that Walken doesn't really trust anyone and doesn't really with like the full extent of what he knows and who he knows and even what he's done. Because one of his buddies is like, yeah, we're gonna show you how to use an Uzi, and then basically all of them just go, yeah, actually, no, we know how to use an Uzi, dumbass.
This is sort of also like this film is kind of a showcase of Uzi technology, right? This is one of the look at this new gun.
Yeah.
I think everyone discovered the Uzi. People just went, "Oh fuck, the Uzi's so cool in movies and especially the 80s."
Is it an older technology?
It was developed by Israel in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
It did not become. I'm sure there's a whole complex history of when it started making it to the wider world.
There's definitely an explosion in like 80s movies of the Uzi being the gun for a little
Yeah.
while. And
They're-
this
they-
feels like it was a sort of progenitor to that. Like,
It doesn't make a ton of sense to me using like 9mm SMGs as except that unless they're planning on doing most of their fighting just focused in the none of this is important.
But you're not finished. What would you want to go back and get what they took from you?
The structure of this movie, I thought was one of its really big strengths because the bit where he's doing reconnaissance isn't just setting up this country, but it also puts together the pieces like here's where you come into the country. Here's the sort of outlying territory of the country. Here's like the central compound that the president of the country lives in. Here's all the different little people and power. The way I described it, and I posted this to the Discord excitedly and wrote in my notes excitedly, was it's a Nakatomi country.
yes.
The movie spends a lot of time telling you about the both like psychological and like physical geography of this place. And even though it only really pays off in the last 10 minutes, like absolutely every element of the movie up to that point all pays off in this in the last 15 minutes of the film, which is just a wild wild structure to me. And I liked that structure a whole lot.
I thought the structure also for me worked really well in sort of driving home the sort of colonial aspect of what is going on here.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because he comes to the country, he sees the country, he has a bad experience of the country and gets out, and then spends all this time basically plotting, hey, here's how we're going to take over this country. And it's not like it's a revenge thing for him necessarily. It's not necessarily depicted as that, but it does a very good job of like echoing kind of how explorers find a place, check it out, possibly have a bad experience there that causes them to leave, and then come back and shit is very real. And I thought that was a very, very interesting structure. And it's part of the reason why I was insistent about referring to it as a West African country, because I think that is very much the history of West Africa.
This is definitely that is permeating the whole movie, is just how much it's about the West fucking with an African country for the gain of, in this case they're hired by a corporate dude.
Yeah.
That was to mine platinum there, and is keeping the platinum secret from our mercenary crew.
He makes a friend. Walken makes a pal of sorts. Makes friends with an alcoholic journalist who, for some reason, thought he could come to this dictatorial nation and just, shoot all feet of film.
I mean,
journalize his way out of it.
Well,
Doing
I mean,
that thing.
that's the lost dream of the 80s and 90s, and that's almost gone today. Is that from Vietnam? You could show footage of the war and change things. Like a journalist could change the world.
Although in that movie, they can't.
Well, yes, it's showing that like maybe that time has already passed by 1980.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make people care about Africa, no matter what.
Oh yeah, well that I was talking about fucking PTSD earlier in the Vietnam War. You've fallen into my trap of trying to finish a thought like a half hour later, Rudy.
Shrug played his trap card. Oh no.
Oh no, I remembered something, probably briefly. Vietnam is probably the first time that America is what that one guy who's a Marine and still a Marine probably doesn't think war is bad, but anyway, what he called fourth generational warfare, which is post combined arms maneuver warfare, which the USA is very good at. Fourth generational warfare is like defined by a superpower like the US can be really, really great at logistics, really, really great at combined arms maneuver warfare. But in the age of mass media, and when faced with, when you go to Vietnam, where you're fighting a civil war that's defined by a large paramilitary force that knows the territory better than you, or if you go to Iraq and you fight what is, despite many bungles and mistakes, you come to a technically on paper great victory in terms of combined arms military warfare. None of that really fucking matters because you're in someone else's house. It'll never be your house, and they can just wait you out while they do, insurgency stuff, and they only have to do it until, thanks to the media at large, everyone at home is like, why the fuck are we still doing this? Even if it's just to the point of, why are our brave American boys dying in Afghanistan? And they don't give a shit about the Afghan people. It's not a circle that can be squared. So what actually happens is, you don't give a shit about the Vietnamese or the African folks. In a case like this back home, but you do care about like the psychological effect on Chris Kyle, the most killingest sniper in history or whatever. It is a creator of empathy, but usually for the people that are waging war and they just get tired of it because they realize that the material effect, like the material gain of it, is not worth fucking occupying a country for the next 200 years. Anyway, everyone can have the floor for the rest of the cast. Have fun.
Just for you. Podiceps, cristatus. Right?
That the credits of this film ascribe the XM18, the poster child rotating grenade launcher, to provided by ATS Inc., which the most thorough of 3 pages of internet search later I couldn't find anything on. Which this film is a lot of things, but one of the things it is a advertisement for how great Uzis are, and also how great this fictional gun is.
Yeah, honestly, even more than the Uzi. Like this gun gets like people mention the Uzi, you're like, man, Uzis are sweet. But this gun gets like a full scene of like a guy talking about it and presenting.
Yes, like it has. I wondered if that guy was an actual arms dealer. Because also they provided the manual. Like we see all the unboxing. I mean, the original author and the director had spoken about this.
Hey, here we got an unboxing of an amazing gun today.
Yeah.
Shout out to our sponsor, Squarespace.
Whoever was responsible for doing up the brochure thing made sure to have 40 millimeter shells on the opposite page, which wouldn't go in that gun. That's right.
Oh
Go
no.
into the
Oh,
goof
shit.
stick and bam. I don't think that's a goof on this, which is fucking embarrassing. So that does let us return. What a carefully structured and wonderful deal.
Podcast we have.
Yeah, man, sometimes I feel a great deal of sympathy for Rudy. Not today, though.
Oh no.
There's two things.
Sympathy for old roots.
There's actually, first I will do a simple review of the IMDb Goose page is revealing mistakes, which was something that I did notice myself. But although they are supposed to be receiving training in the use of the Uzi submachine gun, several of the mercenaries who run across the deck to fire at the floating target are armed with Ingram MAC-10s. They could add that those Ingram MAC-10s have had some stuff added to them to make them look more like Uzis, but they're still clearly MAC-10s. Wrong! 9mm subgun. Fuck you, filmmakers.
You couldn't source enough guns.
Uh-huh.
You couldn't smuggle enough guns to make your movie in. Those scenes were probably filmed in Belize.
Yeah. They filmed the like Central American scene in Florida and the African scenes in Belize. In Central America.
Let's all learn and think about
Movie
how we
magic.
know where Belize is on a map.
Hey, fun fact, when you Google Belize, it auto-fills to Belize map.
Oh, thank you.
Factual errors, though. This is important because it brings us back to the dark terror of the real world with real killings. The original Manville gun was designed in 1935 by Charles Manville as a 12-gauge multi-barrel shotgun, 24-shot capacity. However, the XM18 in DOW, Department of War Dogs, is based on an updated 1936 design as a 25mm grenade launcher with an 18-shot capacity, hence the 18 in XM18. The movie version was still considerably more powerful than World War II era 25mm grenades were capable of. Okay. Unable to interest the military in his design, Manville Company stopped making the weapon. Ironically, in the early 1980s, I don't think this is irony. I just think it's just... Anyway, in the early 1980s, the movie Dogs of War served to generate some interest from the military, utilizing updated manufacturing processes and materials. The XM18 type grenade launcher has actually seen some military service as a 25mm grenade launcher. I don't know if That's actually, I think they did. I mean, maybe someone got the Manville patents and started producing that, like, brought this fantasy gun back into reality. But I don't know if they named it the XM18. I didn't do research. I'm sorry. I'm just reading off IMDb. I'm a fraud.
Well, you're
Wait,
fine,
wait, wait,
because we
wait.
couldn't-
It is
we
used by
couldn't
the
find
U.S.
it.
Special Forces as well as some South American and African countries. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It's technical shit. Damn, it doesn't have the thing I thought it did. Going to IMFDB. Fuck. It has also been written Andrei C. Piek, chairman of the Milcor Company, was inspired to design the now famous Milcor multi-grenade launcher after seeing the Manville in this movie. The Milcor MGL is currently in use by American Armed Forces. That is used to kill real human beings in all kinds of war zones the world over. Inspired by this movie about a fake grenade launcher that was built on a flare gun. Isn't
Oh.
movie great?
Movies are great.
Might be magical. Anyway, okay, I'm muting myself, so I'm not tempted to talk.
God, it's so weird seeing a real one of these. Found a YouTube video of it. What the fuck? This looks completely fake.
I mean, it looked completely fake in the movie.
It works in a particular I don't think it launches the same kind of munitions, but yeah, it's.
I mean,
the
they
fuck?
make a big case for it launching any munitions you want. You want garlic, you want barbecue flavor, you can do it.
What the fuck is a tactical shell?
That's ranch, actually.
Oh, okay.
Just tactical ranch.
Tactical ranch.
Strictly bush league.
I bet they've never seen anything newer than bolt action Enfields.
Well, I hope they don't blow the bottom out of this tub when you give them the Uzis.
I wrote logistics like 5 times in my notes while watching this movie.
Which makes this film completely Rudy Nip. That
yeah,
it's men doing things. And it's men making phone calls and having meetings.
yeah. When I was watching this, it's like Rudy is gonna go nuts over the scene where they're getting guns on a boat.
How did you like the scene where they show you how to start your cutting torch in the middle of a piece of metal?
I
knew Shrug was gonna have feelings about that.
I had feelings about it too, Shrug. I only know a little bit about that, and it was enough to go like, wait a minute.
Oh no, that's totally legit. That's how you do
Okay.
that. Yeah, you heat it up and then you do description of chemistry goes here, but
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That was the thing.
sure.
Is I was watching. I was just like, I don't know here.
Dog in that scene too. Just hanging out and see a fun dog.
I really like the bit where he's like frustrated that his wire welder isn't looking. Like they just cut to him like trying to use his fucking thing. Yeah, like he's having problems re-welding some barrels for smuggling purposes. It's just like a 15 seconds or something of that.
Yeah, it's 15 seconds and never explained. It's great.
I adore the scene where this is maybe like the microcosm of the whole film that he thinks he maybe put something in one of the wrong barrels and he welded it and was like, oh no. And it's not him yelling, it's not him going, oh no, I don't know what I did it. It's all visual, it's all silent language, all universal language. This is a film for the whole world to be able to experience.
Wonder if this will come up again and be really relevant. It doesn't.
No.
But you know.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before we had done the cast that for your versions, the French border, the French-Belgian border scene, Morocco.
Yeah, every scene in French didn't have subtitles in the version I watched.
Yeah, no,
Even the gun deal. The gun deal is mostly in French too, right?
Yeah, all in French. Yeah. I just thought it was really clever. I didn't know, because it's like, of course. I mean, it comes across so clearly. I don't need to know what they're saying. I can tell exactly what they're saying just from their mannerism and the way the movie's shot.
And for my part, at least in I did have J subs going on for those scenes. So, spoilers, you knew exactly what was going on.
This movie's really good at visual communication. I mean, it makes sense because it's 90% Christopher Walken staring at stuff.
Hey, Chris, can you leave the room for a second? I want to talk about a scene that wasn't in the version you watched.
No.
All right. Bye, Chris. Bye. Okay. Let's talk about that manual bridge scene. I love that. I mean,
I
I also
love the
I see why they cut it, but also I was like, oh my,
Yeah.
I love looking at this
yeah,
bridge.
yeah. I was like, this doesn't need to be in the movie, but this is extremely good. The manual bridge scene.
I love all bridge scenes. It's dragging that tension out even longer.
Yeah, they had to do a bridge scene and then a second bridge scene.
But they're different bridge scenes. They have different tensions to them. They're distinct bridge scenes that definitely don't both need to be in the movie, but are nevertheless not the same scene.
But in the greater context, it's like building this steam of like, when is this raid going to go off?
Yeah.
As opposed to modern filmmaking, like that goes on for so long, like the build up or like the lack of build up. You're like, okay, it's about to pop off. No, it's about to pop off. No, they're gonna just gonna swing around this manual bridge. It's super loud and creaky. Nothing happens.
Yeah. You're like, are they going to get found out? Are they going to get found out? They don't.
I think that's one of the things that makes the action when it comes, and it's just so fucking huge.
Yeah,
and they use a billion gas bombs. It's just so striking and overwhelming.
Yeah, like I feel like Scott McCloud would love this film because of how much it just shows a snapshot of a scene. Like I keep thinking about the journalist gets run over, and Tom Berenger does not help the journalist. He helps, or he grabs the run overer, and grabs a taxi, and they pull off. And in scene, we don't know what happened. We find out what happens later, kind of.
And then after they get the information they wanted out of him, you don't find out that they killed him until after the fun dinner party between his economic colonialist, platinum-loving paymaster and the president puppet he wants to set up.
I love to ask these setup questions. So, why did this puppet master choose Walken? Why did he choose James Shannon?
Because I think it's just because he's good at what he does. We see him,
but he found him. Like James wasn't advertising in the back of Soldier of Fortune.
That's because he's not a dumbass and knows what he's doing.
Like, he doesn't seem shocked to have someone show up at his door who knows what's what or anything.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to do it anymore.
Can somebody describe the political situation in Zangara?
Yeah,
that he encounters.
So essentially, this is a small dictatorship run by a dictator who also is, I think, he's declared himself the next incarnation of Jesus Christ or something too. That's a really small detail in the movie that it like seems to set up like it's important, but isn't.
Like they'd semi in the last 10, 15 years ripped off the yoke of imperialism. And then, surprise, one of them was like, well, I'll take this power for myself.
Yeah, well, there were two of them, and they both were, and this guy is the guy who came out on top. That's important, because corporate paymaster guy got the other one to be the new puppet of the country once it gets overthrown. And
there
also,
two military guys.
Yeah, two military guys. And also there's a doctor who was more moderate and more appealing to liberals in the TV in the audience. And for some reason he didn't get killed. He's in a prison. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but
because in a post colonialism environment or in post fascist uprising environment, if you can keep a doctor alive to do doctor stuff, you do that because doctors are the first persons to run out of the country when stuff goes down, and this guy didn't run, he stayed for his country.
And also if he had any, support among the populace.
Yeah.
They do say there was
supporters.
yeah,
much.
like they didn't kill Mandela.
Oh, that's true. And yeah, essentially, it's swap out one dictator for another in the political situation of this country, which is essentially serves as a fortress for its president and military dictator, who, uh, in an interesting detail, set up that the official presidential residence is a former colonial house,
Mm-hmm.
although he now
Oh,
lives
yeah.
in a defensive military compound instead.
I want to float a theory by the people here. Was Gabrielle actually in charge?
No,
No,
No.
No, I don't think she was in charge.
there was
Gabrielle being a woman who helps Christopher Walken and is the
sort of.
sort of
No,
helps
no.
Christopher
Just take
Walken.
him out. Just takes him out for the day.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Basically
is
tells them, don't take those pictures. You're gonna get fucking beaten up and kicked out of the country. What is it? The phrase that our drunken reporter says is beauty is a currency, but unfortunately, here it is only valuable in the president's palace or something. So yeah, she's just getting by the best she can, I think.
I keep thinking about how James burst into the bedroom, shoots it up, sees her, and then just leaves.
He doesn't seem very happy to see him. I mean, there might be a part of him, especially after being told that no, she didn't betray you, that's like, okay, there's this like hot babe in Zagara, and I
Oh.
can like reify the idea that whatever I'm doing is not just killing people, and maybe I can make like the end to me is he's rebelling against his paymasters. He's also rebelling against like the history of his life that has brought him to this point, probably. But I think maybe there was a sliver of a fantasy there of maybe she'll fucking fall into my arms and go off to America with me. I look fucking great in the jacket. Surely she doesn't want to hang here, which was sort of the gist of their conversation before, which she was constantly pushing back against of, I fucking live here. This is in America. Stop telling me to leave all the time. There's also the other thing that our charming, drunken, hashtag not all colonialists. Wait, what? English guy says is that the moderate dude, the doctor, wanted to maintain links to the mother country, and our two gallant freedom fighters ranted about neo-colonialism, etc., etc. And I thought, I guess they aren't wrong about everything. In the massive and complex landscape of arguably technically post colonial West and post and sub-Saharan Africa, it feels like the political situation is drawn from a lot of different examples, but ultimately the best version, the ideal version of what can come from this fucked up situation is, a nice doctor that will continue like getting on the horn with the queen or whatever regularly, that'll still, talk to us, right? And it's a brief moment, but it does sort of buoy the overwhelming paternalistic
but
sense
yeah,
that unfortunately bubbles beneath the surface of the movie.
Hey, English majors,
Fuck.
Hey,
decode the opening quote for me
I
and
don't
for our
remember the
audience.
opening quote. So can you read the
Cry
opening quote?
havoc and let loose the dogs of war. Shakespeare.
Hmm.
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 Shakespeare.
People like old Willie Shakes.
it was a reference to Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country,
Yep.
which had not come out which
Uh-huh.
had not come out yet and would not for a
Oh.
decade. But it was a reference nevertheless, because as we all know, Shakespeare is best enjoyed in the original Klingon.
Yeah. Here, let me ask a dumb question that maybe we all are dumb about. What doth havoc mean?
It's Cyclops' brother.
um,
Yeah.
that too. But the chaos and violence that happens in any violent conflict.
Probably you're gonna fucking wreck everything and let slip the war dogs, which I think we call them war fighters now. Unfortunately, you know, the grunts, just the
Okay, so it does
dudes
refer
being
to
dudes.
just dudes doing wars.
Yeah,
At
I
this
mean,
point, yeah.
yeah. At the point of this movie, it definitely refers to just dudes doing war. Um, in the original context, yes, I went and researched this right now.
Fuck. We can use
Sorry.
Google.
Look, you have a 3x5 card. You can put any notes you want on that, and you can use that for the test.
I should
Yeah.
limit myself to that.
All right. In the original context, the quote comes up when Mark Antony is alone with Julius Caesar's body and basically talking about how he's going to try to get the crowds to start some shit about Caesar getting killed. So, I mean, that is an interesting then sort of, if we reflect that onto the movie, you know, we have a country where the previous leader has been kicked out, i.e. the colonials, and then replaced, and possibly
All dissent has been destroyed.
all dissent has been destroyed. And one of the things that the sort of corporate overlords who hire Jamie going in sort of hint at is that they would love it if this could look like it was an internal uprising, that it was not external forces flipping over the government, but if they could make it look like a military coup that occurred in the country, that'd be cool. So there's definitely, I think, that sense of let slip the dogs of war, meaning let them go, let them cause chaos, let them do whatever they can towards an eventual goal, but the chaos is sort of the goal along the way. The chaos is the result that leads to the thing that we want.
You're late!
But will we cry havoc in our reviews of Dogs of War? As each time we come up with a unique rating system based on the movie to score it on a scale of 1 to 5. This time, I think of a particular scene that occurs in the 15 to 20 minutes of chaos at the end of this movie. That is foreshadowed by during Christopher Walken's day trip around with Gabrielle, where he sees a church with a tower, and in the big chaotic scene, he climbs up in that tower and uses the window that overlooks the barracks that they are basically focused on for most of their attack, as it's where the president is held up, and just uses his fictional grenade launcher to fire out that window. And so I will say for our scale today, it is from 1 to 5 rounds of grenades fired out of a church tower.
Oh, okay.
I will say I'll go with 4 grenades launched out of a church tower using a completely fictional gun. Simply because I really enjoyed how much, even in the shortened version that I watched, how much this movie was focused on both developing Christopher Walken's character, but also not over revealing Christopher Walken's character, leaving so much up to the audience to figure out and to connect these sort of, I want to say, disparate versions of him that we see over the course of the movie. You know, from the opening scene where he is very threatening and menacing to the somewhat less threatening, but still somewhat not in tune with things version of him we see in New York, to the versions we see of him during the planning sequences, and then finally to the version where he becomes, as was previously said, the tip of the spear and is just going in there gun blazing or grenade launcher blazing. And the movie doesn't explain the connections between those different versions of him. The movie just trusts the audience to figure out what he's doing and who he is. And and I actually really appreciated that a lot. And even in the shortened version, it didn't feel that anything was missing from him per se. There were moments where you noticed that were missing from the movie, but you didn't feel that anything was missing from him as a character. And so,
Tell me, am I a good man? Just say I'm a good man.
wow,
Am
How do I look in these pants?
oh my God, those pants! That was my okay. I will confess that was my alternate rating system was going to be Christopher Walken's pants. But yeah, so I'll say 4 grenades launched out of a church tower. Now I will kick it over to Tigress for her rating.
This movie, I mean, I was kind of hyped from the poster, which made it look like it was going to be completely ridiculous, and it was not as completely ridiculous as the poster made it look. Although that gun is pretty silly. I wasn't totally sure what to expect going into this movie, and gone through it. It is a movie that is about logistics. I think I described it as the Nakatomi country a bunch of times earlier, and like every single aspect of this film is about the architecture of the situation and the interiority of Mr. Walken, even though we're never totally privy to it. It's just so meticulous in how it goes through tiny detail after tiny detail after tiny detail that add up to a complex whole. And the last action sequence is stunning. And not only is it like just a really great action sequence on its own, but it's like 8,000,000% better because it's one of the only 2 like real traditional action sequences in the movie. Walken's performance is fantastic and much less of the sort of comical affect archetype that I'm more used to seeing from him now. Thanks, SNL. Also, thanks for making one of my favorite songs ever, "Don't Fear the Reaper," into a joke. 4 grenades launched out of a church.
All right. With that, I guess we'll kick it over to Rudy and get Rudy's score.
Oh, it's me. It's time
Yeah.
for me. One day soon, this podcast, we will have divergent opinions about a film. But it's not today. I also give this 4 grenades thrown out of a clock tower because Shrug said at the end of the last cast, this is a film that straddles 2 eras, and I have, as I'm growing older, I find out how much I just absolutely love 1979 aesthetic. And that clothing, that fashion, the texture, the worn down wood of a fading America right before the burst of the 80s. In this film, you see flashes and glimpses of the 80s. The weapons dealer absolutely embodies that idea of what was to come. But also in 1970s filmmaking, of it being a adult and complicated, and showing these complex characters but never letting you inside their head. Like, I wanted to compare it to The Long Goodbye and Blowout, because it refuses to be the movie you think it's going to be, and it just exists at its own pace, and it keeps dropping crumbs like, oh, you think it's going to be this kind of movie, and then it's not. We are given all the evidence of what James Shannon is as a person. I think I've said James, Jamie, Jimmy. I've said all versions of Jay and that name. And then we were never told this is how you should feel about it. We were left to think for ourselves how we feel about this character. Like, we didn't talk about how he semi-adopts a kid who's just sort of on the streets of New York. That's part of his identity. It's good. Shrug?
Ah! Did you have any? What did you give number?
Yes, 4 out of 5. 4 grenades fired out of a church tower.
Oh shit. I am not 100% sure why I put this on my list. I think I just wanted other people to know it existed and have an excuse to watch it again, because it's been several years. I did not really expect it to be a rich text and color me surprised. Yeah, it's good. I hope someday we watch a movie where I don't stop talking. I don't start talking about how I vibe with the evidence of PTSD and someone's stare for 27 minutes, shouting over anyone else who wants to be like, yeah, we know, okay? This isn't therapy. But obviously, it wasn't today. I love this showcase for Walken, his presence as a pre-joke self. It might have been the first time that I encountered him other than the deer hunter as just, just a fucking magnetic, beautiful guy I want to watch, guy I want to stare at for 2 straight hours. Also, that is how you start cutting steel in the middle of a big mass with a torch, so that's a plus. 4 out of 5. Grenade shot from church window.
Or that's 16. That's 16 rounds. 16 bell tower rounds.
I'll fuck anybody up.
We might have to reload after that in a very
Yeah.
awkward scene.
God damn, yeah. Did we mention that?
No, I don't think
Did
we
we
talked
mention
about
that on the recording? It actually
No.
bothers being like, oh yeah, this takes 500 years to reload.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
It does it twice. It does it once with Tom Berenger and once with Christopher Walken, where they both have to stop and try to reload this thing, and it's like, oh wow, this is the big drawback here.
And it's
To
used
this.
as a like tension building stop and device before the final all 4 of the mercenaries go fucking ham, blowing up everything moment.
But will any of us have to reload to find a new guy because one of us has taken our shell? Shrug. Who's your guy?
My guy is drunk English, specifically drunk reporter, attempting to give the recent post-colonial history of Zangaro to somebody else in the lobby of the hotel. And then not being able to control myself at the end and shouting very loudly, "You're fucking CIA!" etc. I'd like to have a cooler guy, but that's definitely my guy. Is person that's just like, do you want to fucking hear about colonialism in this hotel lobby when I'm really drunk?
Thanks for the drink. You are you? You're fucking CIA!
Just remember that retweet does not 100% signal endorsement of all the ideas expressed. Tigress, who's your guy?
Okay, my guy is actually more of a gal.
Oh, fuck!
Oh wow.
So early on in the movie, one of Walken's war buddies is with him while they're trying to convince another war buddy to join them in this latest campaign of military money making. And he talks about how, oh yeah, he had a good excuse for not coming. If I had an excuse, it would be that my wife's currently pregnant, and Walken gives him a hard time about this. Cut to near the end of the movie, this guy is going into the compound, and he busts into a random house. He sees a woman surrounded by children, presumably one of the consorts of the president of the country, and he hesitates for a moment. She pulls out a gun and shoots him dead. And she is my guy because she has not one single word, but it is such a great scene. She has such energy and presence in that moment. And it also does a really good job, even with the subsequent scene of Walken, ostensibly picking the theoretically better ruler or whatever for the country. It questions the morality of this, because she is not portrayed as an evil person. They do not do this as this is a sinister thing. It feels like a consequence, a payment for the sin of what they're doing, and the irony that he's waiting for you know, he has a wife and kid at home, and a mother kills him. Just felt maybe a little on the nose, but it also super worked to just give that whole scene a lot of layers to it, in like one of the few scenes in that movie that has a lot of stuff going on that doesn't center on Christopher Walken. So she's my guy.
Yeah, so that was Tom Berenger. That was
Tom Berenger.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
his
I don't know
theoretical number
actors.
2.
If you're gonna pipe up, Rudy, who's your guy?
Yo, I was gonna get to that because he was my guy as soon as he was gonna be my guy until he gets shot in the back. So I had to change tactics because once it goes off, he's just loving it. He's just screaming. He's just having a good old time.
Like that's the thing, is like you get the sense from Walken that Walken's like kind of not like he's doing it, but he's not like woohoo about it. Whereas Tom Berenger is like, fuck yeah, let's go.
The action's the juice for me, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I want to be, right on the edge. He's just loving it, but then he gets shot in the back, justifiably, because he's having too much fun. You're not supposed to have fun. That's my film paper. This film's about not having fun. But my guy, little bit of debate because I was watching with Japanese subtitles. Is gonna be the installed dictator of Dr. Ogoya. That's how he's written in Japanese, even though it's written Okoye on IMDb and in the credits. Because I don't know if you've had this situation. I've had this situation even with my tiny, minuscule amount of internet fame. I have walked into situations and been talking with someone and realized they know who I am. And they know everything they need to know about me, and I have no idea who they are. And they have so much leverage over me. Even as I'm bandaging them up, if I'm taking care of the wounds, and I'm like, and somehow this beat up white guy knows more about me than I know about him. How does that happen? And you just spend the whole day trying to figure out, how does this person know about me?
It actually kind of happened to me once. It was super bizarre.
It's happened to me. It happened to me several times, and I don't like it. I don't. But it's very fun. It's very funny when it happens. But so
the shrug brand is a burden.
So Dr. Ogoya, that's my guy. Chris, you started the round table. Bring us out.
All right, I'll bring us out. My guy was sort of already a little bit touched on by Tigress, but not too much. And it is, his name in the credits is listed as Terry, though I don't know he's ever actually given a name in the movie. But he is played by Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy from Married with Children. And I honestly, like, aside from the hilarity of like, oh hey, I know that actor, which is a thing that happens in all of these movies. What up, Saving Private Ryan? Damn you, Steven Spielberg. But no, I actually really liked his scene because you get the sense that he is not gung-ho about going on these missions, and he's trying to have it. He's got an okay excuse, but he's still just like doesn't want really to be there. But at the same time, then it cuts to him. He's a mechanic. He's working in a shop, and his boss comes out and says like, "Hey, when's that car getting done?" And he just reaches in and like rips out the wires and says, "Not today." And so like there's a frustration in him that he wants to go. It's just it's a short scene. It's not a very long scene, but I actually really enjoyed his scene as sort of a person who could go but didn't go, and like kind of the conflict for him of that was interesting. And it is juxtaposed then very immediately by Tom Berenger basically just like trying to say like, oh, look at that wuss guy, he's not going, and like there's a nice like juxtaposition there where that in a way kind of foreshadows Berenger's eventual like woo, running into war. So I appreciate that. And so my guy will be Terry, otherwise known as Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy. Yeah.
All tell me I'm a good man.
Nice.
Grenades, tactical, anti-tank, anti-personnel. It's what we in the business call a mixed fruit pudding.
So next time, our next film, I think we all need a break. We all, war movies. I don't want this to be all bummers. I just want us to all take a toll on our souls. So I thought, let's just take a break. Let's have a fun time. How about next time? Let's review Hot Shots.
Hot Shots.
Hot Shots. Not Hot Shots Part Duh.
No, with Human Criminal, 1991's Hot Shots with Human Criminal, Charlie Sheen.
I saw that in a theater.
I had a friend I had multiple friends who kept talking about Hot Shots Part 2 to the point where I thought that there wasn't a Hot Shots 1 and that the joke was that it was called Part 2 because that seemed like the kind of joke that sort of movie would make. And then I was just absolutely floored years later when I found out that Hot Shots was in fact a movie.
Franchise, really.
It's theoretically a parody of Top Gun, which is not a war movie, and we will not be reviewing it on this podcast. It's a summer camp movie, but I assure you, from my memories of HBO in 1994, Hot Shots is a war movie because they assassinate Saddam Hussein in it. So I'm pretty sure that qualifies it as a war movie.
As a child, I was genuinely confused by their and Saddam Hussein as himself billing. Like, that can't. They can't lie about that, can they? I'm 7 or whatever.
You're telling me that people would just go onto the internet and lie?
People would go into the movie theater and lie.
Yeah,
in
people in Hollywood would
trailers,
lie.
in their billing. I don't think there was even an internet when that was released.
A parody of Top
Anywhere.
Gun in which a talented but unstable fighter pilot must overcome the ghost of his father and save a mission sabotaged by greedy weapons manufacturers. Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
That's about as complicated as
gonna
Dogs of War.
You're gonna have to watch both Top Gun and this movie.
I think it'd be even funnier if you don't.
No, yeah, don't watch Top Gun. Don't.
It's not a war movie, you know. You signed the contract. You signed the verbal contract of this podcast. You will only watch a war movie, as dictated by this show.
I would urge you to watch Hot Shots first, and then after we record, then you can watch Top Gun, and find out how much of a not war movie.
Oh, you need a control group. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Top Gun is not a good movie. It's fine.
Yeah, but what else am I going to do with my parents' Paramount Plus subscription?
Can't believe Bucci would shit on one of the highest grossing gay movies.
Fair.
Ever.
Top Gun is only a good movie if you want to take that approach to it, but on the surface level, no, it is.
I saw that movie in 3D.
Yeah.
Is Hot Shots good?
It is. Hot Shots I have not seen since I was a baby child.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna say at some point we need to watch a movie that sucks. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, we kind of got on Saving Private Ryan's case for sucking, but there was still some okay stuff there.
I can say things that were good about Saving Private Ryan. There were 4 things about that movie that were good.
I would hope so in 2.5 hours.
My parents literally dropped my sister and I off at the goddamn theater, and we watched this. Why? Dances with Wolves, Marathon Man. There's a parody of fucking Marathon Man in it? I was 8 years old. I was 8.5 years old. It's only 84 minutes. Now I see your game, Rudy.
You do. But for that being Shrug, along with Tigress and Chris, I've been Rudy. And as always, shoot the hinges.
Shoot the hinges.
Shoot the hinges dead.
Put glass in the hinge's mouth and punch it.
Totally scarring war